SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
Want to cut your heating costs this season? With a highly efficient York heating and air conditioning system, you can save up to 50% in energy costs while enjoying tax credits and TVA energy rebates as much as $3,000. Your local York dealer. Visit harbonair.com to schedule a free evaluation of your system.
Oh, yeah.
Good morning, Mississippi.
Everything gonna be all right this morning.
Mornings with Richard Cross.
Oh, yeah.
Here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Woo! Now, when I was a young boy, at the age of 5, my mother said I was gonna be the greatest man alive.
Good morning. Welcome in. It is Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi. Thanks for joining us on this Tuesday, the final day of the month of June. Today, June 30th. 30 days, half September, April, June. I always have to do it just to be sure. June 30th, last day of the month of June, which marks, I guess, the halfway point of the year coming to an end. It has gone quickly. Mornings with Richard Cross brought to you by Community Bank, online at communitybank.net. Community Bank, rooted in our community. Lance described yesterday as a horse that was bucking a lot, and sometimes you just got to hold on for dear life. Hopefully, little smoother trot as we move through the show on this Tuesday morning. I'm Richard Cross alongside Lance Tolbert. Lance, good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, man. We're running like Secretariat this morning. So
easy.
Yeah. Don't jinx it.
Let's ease out of the gates and get off to what do we get? We have to trot, and then we have to canter, and then maybe we'll get into a I don't know all of the horse racing terms, but I think you understand where we're going with that. How are you this morning?
Man, I'm doing great. Beautiful day in the neighborhood. Little trafficy out there. Be careful, folks.
Oh, yeah?
And but, man, it's a pretty day so far.
Think this is, for a lot of people, kind of the last day in the work week, or you think it's Wednesday before everybody kind of shuts it down for the 4th of July weekend?
Man, who wants to work on a Wednesday if you don't have to?
Yeah.
Shutting it down. I think everybody was trying to get it done, get in early. You know, you see that sometimes when you get up and Madam. Crossing the res is pretty habitual. You see the same cars, same tags, wave at the same folks. When you see an extra 50 cars, you're like, yeah, people are getting ready for the weekend, and I don't blame them, man.
Yeah. Celebrate. I mean, it's not every year that we're able to celebrate 250 years of the United States of America. There is a lot of patriotism. There are a lot of people that tomorrow will be locked in on the United States World Cup team as they play in the round of 32. We've had some teams eliminated yesterday. Germany going home. Japan going home. The jokes kind of wrote themselves on the social media platforms last night. Said, kind of worst day for Germany and Japan combined since about 1945 was kind of the common frame or theme that was out there yesterday. It is whatever it is that you're doing, whether you're going in and trying to cram 2 work days into one or it's just a normal day for you, it is going to be toasty across the Magnolia State. Corinth, up in the northeast corner of the state, sunny, hot, and humid with a high of 98. Winds are light and variable today. It's going to be generally sunny in Greenwood, hot and humid. Your high around 96. Winds light and variable. What little breeze exists in the Delta there in the Greenwood area going to be out of the south and southwest, so it'll be a hot breeze at that. Flora, there in the Jackson metro area, sunshine for you, hot and humid with a high around 95, maybe 96. Winds light and variable. The slightest touch of a breeze may be coming out of the north for you. So perhaps somewhere at some point through the day you can find a little bit of relief with a breeze. Picayune, sunshine and clouds are going to be mixed. Chance for a stray shower or thunderstorm this afternoon with a high of 97 degrees. Winds light and variable with just a little bit of a breeze out of the northeast. The entire northern half of the state of Mississippi is under a heat advisory. Heat indices today are expected to be between 105 and 110. That is going to continue throughout the week. So if you got to be outside, make sure you're hydrating. Make sure you take some breaks. If you're on the business end of a weed eater, sitting on a lawnmower today, outside painting, digging ditches on the farm, whatever it is that you're doing outside today, or you're just maybe silly enough to sneak out and play golf today, make sure that you got plenty of water and you're finding some shade from time to time. It's going to be hot. Hot, hot, hot.
Yeah. I mean, Europe, you see the heat wave they're getting right now. They're like 104, 107s.
Yeah.
It's been rough over. They're not used to it either. I think I read a statistic. It's like 90% of Americans have AC. Over there, it's like 20%. And they're also having a lot of the government telling them, hey, you got to stop using that stuff during these heat waves. So it's just compounding. So thank God for air conditioner.
Yeah, it makes all the sense in the world. It's really, really hot outside. Here's what we need you to do. Not use your air conditioner.
Yeah, I mean, it's a head scratcher.
Did you see that the deputy mayor in Paris blamed the United States for the French heat wave?
I didn't see that.
Yeah. Said all of America's greenhouse gases are
they're floating.
They're floating our way, and they are causing climate change, and it's why it's so hot.
Okay.
My wife and daughter were in France a few weeks ago, and they were amazed how many places did not have air conditioning. It is largely an un-air conditioned country, as you said a second ago. 20% with air conditioning units, and Jane came home, and that was kind of on the front end of the heat wave. They were like mid-90s while they were there. Yeah. And she said it was hot, but you see people in long sleeves and just kind of going on about their business. But I've had a lot of heat-related deaths in France as well.
We don't have a lot of ice either, if I remember. I might be wrong on that, but like air conditioning and ice, those are two necessities in my book. I don't know how you bypass that in life, but they have, I suppose.
Hello, could I interest you in a hot Coca-Cola? No, I'll pass. Thank you.
Come on,
no
man.
thanks.
Come on, yeah.
And Coca-Cola over ice.
Oh, goodness.
It's just how we got to do it.
That's right. It's too syrupy, too, if you don't. And, again, when it gets hot, I can't handle it.
Yeah. Lena Horne was born on this day in 1917, the American singer, actress, and civil rights activist known for her powerful voice classics like Stormy Weather and her groundbreaking work breaking racial barriers in Hollywood. Iron Mike Tyson, born on this day in 1966, the youngest heavyweight champion in history. He, I don't even know how you describe Mike Tyson for somebody that never saw him fight. It was, I get that boxing is violent, period, but his particular style was a different level of violent. I mean, he was a bad dude.
That uppercut, too. Goodness, you didn't want to be near that thing when it landed. I mean, think of 37-0 before he got beat by the 42-1 underdog, James Buster Douglas.
James Buster Douglas.
And it took 7 years for him to bite the ear off of Holyfield. It was like 97, if I recall. Let me look that up. Yeah, 97.
That's right, yeah. And then there was there was a rematch, right?
I believe they rematched, but I don't,
No. I'm thinking about the Lennox Lewis-Mike Tyson fight that would have been in 2000, I think it was. That's the one that was in Memphis at the Pyramid. Their logo was Lewis Tyson, but then they had IS in Lewis highlighted and ON in Tyson highlighted. It was like Lewis Tyson is on.
Yeah, is on.
That was the marketing slogan for that.
Lennox Lewis was a beast. That dude was huge, man.
Vincent D'Onofrio was born in 1959, the American actor known for intense roles in Full Metal Jacket, Law and Order, Criminal Intent, and Daredevil. Played Wilson Fisk Kingpin in Daredevil. Michael Phelps, the decorated American swimmer, widely regarded as the greatest Olympian of all time, was born on this day in 1985. 28 Olympic medals, 23 of them were gold. That was across multiple Olympic Games and just absolutely dominated the sport. He was must-see viewing, and it was like it didn't matter where you were, what you were doing when Michael Phelps was in the pool in the Olympics. It's like the whole world, or at least the whole United States, stopped to watch him because it was like, here comes another win for Michael Phelps. I wonder what he's done with the 5 non-gold medals.
You probably got those in a different plaque.
Yeah. Or I wonder if they're just like in a shoebox kind of stuck in the attic somewhere.
I wouldn't.
Hey, 28 medals, 23 of them gold. I only count 23 of your 28 here. Yeah, those others.
It's like his parents are like, he doesn't talk about those others yet.
Yeah. Cody Rhodes was born on this day in 1985, the American professional wrestler who was prominent in WWE as Stardust. He was also in AEW and other promotions and is, of course, the son of the legendary Dusty Rhodes. Thomas Sowell, the American economist, social theorist, and author, was born on this day in 1930. Now a fellow at a senior fellow at the Hoover Institution, known for his conservative and libertarian writings on economics, race, and culture. David Alan Grier, born on this day in 1956, the American actor and comedian, famous for his work on In Living Color. Just getting started with you. Mornings with Richard Cross. We're back after this on Super Talk, Mississippi.
From the Vegetable Glass.
Morning, partner. The sun is up, the coffee is on, and you're starting your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross, here on Super Talk, Mississippi.
There's no sun up in the sky, stormy weather. Since my man and I ain't together.
Lena Horne bringing us back on this Tuesday morning. Thanks for making us part of your routine to start the day. We've got a lot to get to with you this morning, including conversations with Mandy Gunasekara, who will join us in the 7 o'clock hour. And then to begin the 8 o'clock hour, we talked to him last week, but obviously, I say obviously, it's possible that you haven't followed this. Huge news coming yesterday out of the Supreme Court. The Secretary of State, Michael Watson, will join us to begin the 8 o'clock hour this morning. He is on the coast, I think, there for MML. The Mississippi Municipal League meetings going on today in coastal Mississippi, so we'll talk with him to start things off in the 8 o'clock hour this morning. Today in 1520, La Noche Triste, the sad night. Spanish conquistador Hernán Cortés and his forces suffered heavy losses while fleeing Tenochtitlan during the Spanish conquest of the Aztec Empire. Thank you for the help there.
I know that story well, man.
Yeah, you do.
Wrote a thesis on it.
In 1859, French acrobat Charles Blondin became the first person to cross Niagara Falls on a tightrope. As if that wasn't enough, he did it again and again and again, at one point stopping to make an omelet halfway across.
An omelet. I know the story, but I mean, that's amazing.
Did he carry a little Bunsen burner that he pulled out and popped a cast iron skillet on it?
Well, I mean, he is French. They may eat it raw. You never know.
Yeah, I guess. But is it an omelet if you don't cook it?
I mean, what makes you think about tightrope in the Niagara Falls in 1859 to begin with? And then you bring your omelet maker with you. I mean,
yeah,
it's pretty wild.
Yeah. Dudes being dudes.
Yeah.
Albert Einstein in 1905 published his groundbreaking paper on the electrodynamics of moving bodies, introducing the special theory of relativity. It's just what it says here.
Yeah, I'm in.
1906, Teddy Roosevelt signed the Pure Food and Drug Act and the Meat Inspection Act, major steps in consumer protection and food safety. In 1908, the Tunguska event, a massive explosion, likely from a meteor or a comet airburst. It flattened over 800 square miles of forest in Siberia. I suppose if that's going to happen, Siberia is probably the best place for it to happen.
Yeah.
It is the largest impact event in recorded history.
One of the cool conspiracy theories around that, and they cannot disprove it, is that Tesla crunk up his machine over there at Wardenclyffe, and fired it off, and it went through the Earth, miscalculating, and that's where the explosion happened, was halfway across the world in Tunguska.
Who did that?
Nikola Tesla. Back when he was experimenting at Wardenclyffe.
So not Elon Musk's fault?
No, not Elon's car, no.
Okay. 1934, the night of the long knives. Adolf Hitler orders a violent purge of political rivals within the Nazi Party, particularly within the SA leadership, consolidating his power. Breaking news, even in 1934, Adolf Hitler, not a good guy. 1936, Margaret Mitchell's epic novel Gone with the Wind is published, becoming one of the best-selling books of all time. Here they turned that into a movie as well, and it was fairly popular. 1960, speaking of movies, classic horror film Psycho premiered in theaters, the work of Alfred Hitchcock.
Man, he was good.
Ugh. Whether you liked his stuff or not, the talent there.
Oh, amazing.
Undeniable. 1971, the crew of Soviet spacecraft Soyuz 11 died during re-entry due to cabin depressurization, the only humans to die in space. Interestingly enough, with regard to space, we've got astronauts that are currently leaving the International Space Station for a spacewalk. It's being streamed live if you care to watch it this morning. 1997, the United Kingdom hands sovereignty of Hong Kong back to China, ending over 150 years of British colonial rule. And then finally, going back to 1864, Abraham Lincoln signed the Yosemite Grant Act, protecting the area as America's first state park. So there you go. Of course, Yosemite ultimately became a national park.
And then you got Yosemite Sam.
You do. Yosemite Sam. One of the great cartoon characters of all time.
Oh, yeah, maybe the greatest.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, he's the rootin' and tootin'est cowboy of all time.
He is?
He's got the two pistolas and a great handlebar mustache. I mean, what a guy.
You would rank him above Wile E. Coyote?
Yeah, Wile doesn't have a lot of lines, I mean, he doesn't get to talk a lot. And the Roadrunner's just more like, meep, 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 meep. I loved them all, honestly, but yeah, it's hard to beat rootin' and tootin' cowboy.
Around NCAA tournament time, you have people that always put together brackets of other things. The best cereal, the best vacation spot. What you could do a 64 person bracket of greatest cartoon characters of all time.
I think that's a great idea, man. And honestly, up early this morning, coming in with the heat.
Two of the number one seeds, without question, would be Bugs Bunny and Mickey Mouse.
Oh, of course, yeah. I mean, it has to be. They get a bye or a double bye. You
have the Tasmanian Devil in there.
Taz. You got Tweety Bird, Sylvester.
Well, and then some of your modern day cartoon characters. I mean, would Dora the Explorer?
You'd have to throw her in.
Handy Manny, would those be in there?
SpongeBob. I mean, he's got to go. He's got a whole world under the sea.
Barney the Purple Dinosaur. Does that count as a cartoon character?
Yeah, I mean, the Flintstones. Oh yeah, you'd have to come up with a.
Ooh, Fred Flintstone. Yeah. Would he be a one seed?
He probably would have to be. Fair. George Jetson, probably a one seed.
Yes, no doubt. All right, enough of the nonsense, I suppose. Let's get to some news headlines. A couple of weeks before the trial of Jackson-based officials allegedly entangled in a federal bribery scheme begins. Can we move allegedly at this point out of the sentence? The Hinds County District Attorney, Jody Owens, has both resigned from his post and entered into a guilty plea. Owens was indicted in 2024 alongside former Jackson Mayor Chokwe Antar Lumumba and former City Councilman Aaron Banks. The trio faced multiple charges, including conspiracy and bribery, with Owens and Lumumba having a racketeering charge leveled against them as well. The plea change from the district attorney in Hinds County came yesterday afternoon and follows a last-ditch effort to have his case tossed out. Judge Daniel Jordan denied requests by both Owens and Lumumba to have their charges dismissed, and he also denied motions to have the three defendants charged or tried separately. So this is going to be all for one and one for all. My words, not his. The accusations against Owens taking more than $115,000 in bribes while enriching his elected colleagues to the tune of roughly $80,000 to steer a downtown convention center hotel development project in favor of FBI informants who were posing as real estate developers. Instead of Jackson getting a new hotel, federal authorities exposed a broader sting of public corruption through bribes, private planes, strip clubs, yachts, court records assert. Weren't there some handbags in there as well, if I remember correctly? The trial for the officials is set to begin at the federal courthouse on July 13th in Jackson. Owens will no longer face a jury for the multitude of charges that he faced now that he has pled guilty to conspiracy, which carries a maximum prison sentence of 5 years and $250,000. Lumumba and Banks will still face a jury unless they change their pleas before the trial begins. Lumumba and the others have alleged political persecution and shoddy investigative practices by the FBI. Others involved in the scandal include former Jackson City Councilwoman Angelique Lee. She was the handbag lady, right?
I think so, yeah.
And businessman Sherrick Marv Smith, who happens to be the cousin of Owens. They pled guilty to their roles in the scheme back in 2024. So the mayor's going to stand trial.
Yeah, he wants to see how it goes in court, I guess.
Does it feel as if there is some sort of a deal that perhaps was worked out with Jody Owens for his guilty plea?
Sounds like it to me. He got 5 years, right? Or he's going to get 5. I mean, it would have been a heck of a lot higher than that.
Yeah. Up to. Mm-hmm. A Greenville man has turned himself in, admitting to law enforcement that he pulled the trigger in a shooting that killed a woman on June 25th. Showed up at the Greenville Police Department, said, "Hey, I shot somebody over on Alexander Street." He's since been charged with murder. Told investigators that he and the victim, Minnie Coffey, had been in a dating relationship for about 4 years, but did not provide any other details. Greenville Police Department still investigating.
No matter where you're from, Abbeville, Batesville, D'Iberville, or any other ville in the SIP, you're starting your day off right. Mornings with Richard Cross. Super Talk, Mississippi.
She traveled all around, all across his country. Met a lot of people, made a lot of friends. She got the feeling of a swamp plane running through her blood. She going back home, but she don't know when.
Just underscoring the heat. We saw the heat dome over Europe for much of the past week. Now it's our turn in the United States. Over 180 million people across the Midwest and the East will be under major to extreme heat risks as the week goes along. Widespread heat indices between 100 and 110, with some near the mid-100 teens, like around 115, perhaps a little bit up.
Yeah, that's the delta, buddy, for today and tomorrow, 110 and 113 heat index, so be careful out there.
New York City could see a heat index of 112. I don't know if you've ever been in New York in the summer. Mm-hmm. I mean, our kind of heat in the delta is miserable, but at least there's dirt and trees and sometimes a little bit of a breeze.
Some oxygen.
Brother, in the concrete jungle, when the heat index is 112, that is miserable. Miserable. So,
been there in the summer twice, been years ago, but it was the hottest place I'd ever been, I think.
Yeah,
Baltimore was the same way. It was terrible.
No bueno. C Spire text line is open to you this morning, 601-879-4395. The One Plan from C Spire is here. Fiber home internet and wireless, only $99 a month for new and current C Spire customers. One plan, one price, one experience, zero compromises. You can save over $700 a year with 3 phone lines from C Spire compared to AT&T. Plus, with 5-year price lock, you pay one rate with no surprises guaranteed. So don't wait. Get the One Plan today. Visit your local C Spire store or shop online now at cspire.com/oneplan. C Spire, customer inspired. Continuing with the news headlines this morning, kind of a feel-good story here. I like this a lot. Mississippi State and Southern Miss are partnering to teach children and adults with special needs how to swim. The two schools will hold a joint swim camp in Hattiesburg between July 13th and 17th, offering those with special needs an opportunity, some might call it an opportunity. Normally we would say an opportunity to learn the foundations of swimming and more about water safety. The event will be held at the Family YMCA of Southeast Mississippi. That's on Veterans Memorial Drive in Hattiesburg, in the direction of Greg Tweetmeyer, the Mississippi State professor for kinesiology, who is also a certified adapted aquatics instructor. They will help participants develop confidence in the water and learn basic swimming skills. You got to attend one 45 or 60-minute session in a 5-day period, depending on your age, and to be eligible, camp participants need to be at least 3 years old, have a diagnosed disability. Registration fee is $100, but full scholarships are available for those who need them. Capacity limited. It will be filled on a first-come, first-served basis. Both schools are inviting volunteers to assist and work with the campers for one session per day during the 5-day period as well. Registration deadline is July 12th. So kudos to the folks in Starkville, the folks in Hattiesburg for getting together with their kinesiology departments to put on the swim camp in Hattiesburg for those with special needs. That's awesome. This is a good story as well. Mississippi's own DK Metcalf looking to give back to a community that played an influential role in his upbringing. The current Pittsburgh Steelers wide receiver, along with his family, announced yesterday they're launching the Met the Moment Scholarship through their nonprofit organization, the 7 Pillars Foundation. $5,000 scholarships going to one Oxford and one Lafayette High School student each year. Applications will open during the academic year. They will go through the high school's kind of scholarship awareness departments. DK said this is something my family's discussed for some time as a way to support young people in our community who are entering an exciting new chapter in their lives, but also may face a heavy financial burden. Oxford is home for us. And through the 7 Pillars Foundation, we hope the scholarship is another way we can make a positive impact on a community that has given our family so much through the years. DK was pictured with his mother and his father, Terrence Metcalf, a former All-American lineman at Ole Miss, now on Pete Golding's coaching staff. The 7 Pillars Foundation, the name of it, inspired by the Bible verse Proverbs 9:1. Wisdom has built her house. She has hewn out her 7 pillars. Family said the nonprofit's focus is on faith and family, maternal health, mental health, men's health and fatherhood, mentorship and youth development, scholarship and education, and community engagement and service. So, for the entire Metcalf family, well done. Very, very cool thing that is happening there. Big-time action in the World Cup yesterday. Some really, really interesting games. The round of 32 continues today. Brazil beat Japan 2-1. Paraguay and Germany tied 1-1, went to penalty kicks, and Paraguay upset Germany with a 4-3 win in PKs. Netherlands and Morocco also went to penalty kicks, and it was Morocco advancing 3-2 on the penalty kicks. Exciting. There are those who look at that and go, hold on a second. We're going to play 90 minutes of soccer, and then we're going to play 30 minutes of soccer, and then we're going to stop playing soccer altogether, and we're just going to have one-on-one. But, man, what an exciting way to finish. Oh, so cool. High drama. 3 matches today in the round of 32, Ivory Coast and Norway at noon. That is in Arlington, Texas. France and Sweden from MetLife Stadium in East Rutherford, New Jersey. That's the New York, New Jersey stadium. And then Mexico and Ecuador tonight. The United States is back in action tomorrow when they take on Bosnia at 7 o'clock from Santa Clara, California. Major League Baseball scores. I hesitate because the New York Yankees are absolutely terrible right now. I mean brutal. They may not ever win another game. Not just this season, in the history of their franchise. Alas, White Sox over the Orioles 8-2. Pirates beat the Phillies. Rangers over the Guardians. 7-3 was the final. Detroit over the Yankees back at the stadium. Blue Jays beat the Mets. Red Sox playing better baseball. They're still in last place. Up 6-3, are winners 6-3 over the Nats. Brewers beat the Reds. Cubs 3-2 over the Padres from the friendly confines of Wrigley Field. Twins beat the Astros in a good one in Houston. Marlins over the Rockies 6-2. Mariners over the Angels. Dodgers beat the Athletics, and the Arizona Diamondbacks beat the hapless San Francisco Giants 5-4. Your baseball standings at this point of the season: Tampa Bay and New York continue to flip-flop atop the American League East. Tampa Bay's won 5 in a row. New York has lost 5 straight and 8 of their last 10. That's a tailspin, right? Yeah.
You got to get that. You got to fix that out. There's some kinks in the chain.
As bad as they have been as of late, the Chicago White Sox are fun and they are good.
Yeah.
They have a record of
flair.
They do. They do. Jacob Gonzalez has gotten the call up and has played well.
Braden Montgomery too, as well. 1 for 3 yesterday. Yeah.
Former Madison Central / Stanford / Texas A&M player.
Yeah, wasn't it? Yeah, dude can
play.
He
finished at A&M.
He could hum it too back in the day in high school. He was a heck of a pitcher,
no doubt. So the White Sox lead the AL Central. The Texas Rangers just barely in front of the Mariners in the American League West. Atlanta Braves with a 3.5-game lead over the Phillies. Brew Crew leads the Central by 5.5 over the Cubs, and the Dodgers with an 11-game lead over the Padres out west in the National League.
Man, the Dodgers team's loaded.
Yes, sir, they are. Man, this story hit yesterday. Not because I know him, not because I'm a huge Titans fan, but just because of how awful this disease is. Former Tennessee Titans and Arizona Cardinals running back Chris Johnson revealed yesterday morning on Good Morning America that he has been diagnosed with ALS. He's 40 years old, told Michael Strahan his story. Johnson, while using a speech-generating device based on recordings of his voice, said, "There's no history of ALS in my family. My doctors believe my case is what's called sporadic ALS, which is actually how the vast majority of ALS cases happen. That's one of the reasons this disease can be so shocking. It can happen to someone who never expected it." 10 years in the NFL, Titans, Jets, and then the Cardinals to finish it out. His nickname was CJ2K after rushing for 2,006 yards in the 2009 season. Still ranked 7th best for a running back in NFL history, and he broke the NFL's season record for yards from scrimmage that year, 2,509 total yards. He was the Offensive Player of the Year that year in the NFL. ALS, of course, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, commonly known as Lou Gehrig's disease, a neurodegenerative condition that affects nerve cell communication with muscles throughout the body. It is ugly, and it is not prejudiced, and it is awful. Chris John.
From the Venerable Glass.
Mississippi.
All right, now to the important stuff.
Your VIP pass to hear what the most influential Mississippians are talking about.
This is very important.
Huge news. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
It is time for your Mississippi Lottery Update, brought to you by the Mississippi Lottery, online at mslottery.com. That is mslottery.com. And don't forget to download the Mississippi Lottery app for your phone. No jackpot winner on Powerball last night. The next drawing will come your way tomorrow night, July 1st. $375 million, the estimated jackpot, with an estimated cash value of about $171 million. Tonight, they will pull the ping pong balls for Mega Millions. $511 million is the jackpot number, with an estimated cash value of $231 million. We joke sometimes about me taking it too far with the lottery and, looking at exactly what the numbers would be after taxes and, what would happen if you plopped it into index funds that returned a blah, 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 blah. Well, I can't be the only one anymore that is accused of spending all that lottery money in my head. No, Lance now is not just telling me about an airboat. Lance is now sending me pictures and videos of the airboat that he will be getting, with plans for airboat races in which he individually will fund a $1 million prize.
Yeah, that's how it rolls, man. That's
You've heard of the 24 hours of Le Mans? He wants to do the 24 hours of airboats.
Yeah, exactly, man. I sent you my layout last night.
You did?
I'm excited. I think you got to will it into being. I keep reading things that say, think about it and it will happen. So I'm really thinking
there's one more layer to that.
Okay. Got to buy the ticket?
You got to buy the tickets. Yeah.
It's not just going to appear in my pocket.
Got to buy the tickets. Lottery on the road today at Stogie's in Greenwood. Come see us if you're in the area, or tune in to this special edition Facebook Live starting at 10 a.m. this morning. A reminder that the Lottery Office and Claim Center will be closed on Friday of this week, July 3rd, in observance of the Independence Day holiday. They will resume regular business hours on Monday. A couple of winners. Yazoo City man won $20,000 on 4 tickets from 49 Exxon Fuel Mart in Yazoo City. That was on Cash 4. What else have we got? We've got a $2 Power Play Blitz scratch-off. A Van Cleve man won the top prize of $25,000 from a Circle K store in Ocean Springs. That's fantastic. A Meridian woman won $100,000 on a ticket from Hampton Shell in Meridian. That was on the $30 Millionaire Maker scratch-off.
Some big winners there.
Those are good winners. That's your Mississippi Lottery Update, brought to you by the Mississippi Lottery, online at mslottery.com. Just going back to the Chris Johnson story, the former running back with the Titans. According to scientific research by Boston University's CTE Center, pro football players are 4 times more likely to develop and die from ALS than the average adult male population. Back in 2021, when this study was released, the center said that it couldn't determine why the rate was higher for those athletes, but suggested that repetitive head impacts and traumatic brain injuries might play a role. I mean, it's hard to... I know science relies on... you can't just say correlation equals causation, I think is maybe one of the phrases. But, man, it sure feels like 1 + 1 = 2. Johnson acknowledged on Instagram the unknown about how he developed the disease and referenced the research that has linked repetitive head trauma to ALS and said, quote, I hope the NFL steps up, invests in research, and continues working to protect players both now and for generations to come. Together we can push toward better treatments and one day a cure. He is taking part in a clinical trial as part of his treatment. Chris Johnson, to the point that he can no longer even hold a cup in his hand or speak on his own, said his first indication that something was wrong was when he recognized that he was losing grip strength. Just awful. One other sports headline. The Memphis Grizzlies have traded Ja Morant to the Portland Trail Blazers. It was first reported by ESPN. He was the number 2 overall pick in the 2019 NBA draft. He's under contract with the Trailblazers for the next 2 years, currently in the 4th year of a 5-year, $197 million designated rookie extension. Eligible to sign a 3-year, $178 million extension later this summer. It's a lot of money for a guy that has struggled to stay on the straight and narrow. A lot of people have said some of the influences in his life have not been positive. Got to grow up. But, man, when he's healthy, he is a beast on the hardwood. 7 o'clock hour on the way. Major Supreme Court rulings yesterday. We will jump into that conversation to start things off with you right after the news. It's Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk Mississippi, presented by Community Bank.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, and callers on this show are not the opinions of TeleSouth Communications, its management, or advertisers.
Wake up, get up, and start your day right with Mornings with Richard Cross here on Super Talk Mississippi.
Mornings with Richard Cross is presented by Community Bank. Ever notice how some places still know your name? At Community Bank, that's how banking works. We're a bank that knows community because we live here. And when you walk in, you're more than an account number. No matter what your banking needs are, here you will talk to real people who care about your goals. Community Bank, a local bank built on relationships. Stop by your neighborhood location or learn more at communitybank.net. Alongside Lance Tolbert, I'm Richard Cross. The 7 o'clock hour of Mornings is brought to you every day by MWG Employer Services. Running a business is tough, and if you're struggling with HR, benefits, and payroll, you're not alone. That's where MWG Employer Services comes in. They can provide a full range of employer services plus a custom plan that fits you. Give them a call today, 601-206-7966, or go to MWGEmployerServices.com. Lance, we were talking about all the heat a second ago. Did you see that yesterday it snowed in Big Sky, Montana?
Really?
Yes.
Goodness. That doesn't seem like it should happen, but, I mean...
It was kind of crazy. I was just looking at some of the different temperatures out west. So Jackson Hole, Wyoming, I think the high yesterday was in the upper 40s. It snowed. And when I say snowed, I don't mean like, it was a little bit of a dusting or there were some flurries floating around. I mean, it was full on, cover the ground, leave tire tracks, an inch of snow hanging on the branches of trees snow. Like, it was real snow yesterday in Big Sky.
That blows my mind. I mean, as hot as it is here, thinking that it could be snowing somewhere, anywhere in the vicinity. I mean, Wyoming's not that far away.
No. And Montana's a big state. I mean, so Big Sky kind of southern, southwest. Well, no, I mentioned Wyoming as well. It's kind of southern, southwest Montana. In northwest Montana, like in Whitefish, it was about 70 yesterday, which is just lovely this time of year. But if you've never done that, like if you are thinking in the future about a family vacation somewhere and you have never been west in the summer, now I'm not suggesting you go so that you can find snow, but if you're kind of looking for a break in the heat and the humidity, it is pretty spectacular, especially late in the summer, just to catch a little bit of a break. Yesterday was a busy day in Washington, D.C. It was a busy day for the Supreme Court, and it was a mixed bag of results for the President of the United States. There are more decisions that are expected to be coming down today from SCOTUS. At the center, and the ruling that probably got the most airtime was a case involving the state of Mississippi. Watson versus the RNC, as in Secretary of State Michael Watson versus the Republican National Committee, the Republican Party in Mississippi, the Libertarian Party in Mississippi, some individuals as well joining that lawsuit. And the crux of the case was about this. The RNC wants to stop ballots being counted that are mail-in ballots or absentee ballots after Election Day. The idea is Election Day is Election Day is Election Day. And if you want your ballot to count, then it must be received by election officials on or before Election Day for it to be eligible to be counted. Michael Watson, acting as Secretary of State, and I think this is an important distinction because let me give you a quote from him regarding the decision. We'll start there. Michael Watson has said to us on this radio program, and we'll visit with him an hour from right now, that he is for a single election day and that he does not like the counting of ballots for days after Election Day. However, in his role as Secretary of State, his job is to uphold the law. And as he reads and interprets the law in conjunction with others, there's nothing that says ballots that are received in Mississippi up to 5 days after Election Day, if they are postmarked on or before Election Day, they are eligible to be counted. So, here was his quote. While I oppose the practice of counting ballots received after Election Day, the principle of federalism is a core tenet of my conservatism. I deeply value the rights of states to govern themselves, including the administration of elections, so long as they do not conflict with federal law. Although policies in states like California often undermine confidence in election integrity, the Supreme Court's ruling confirms that this is a decision to be made by Congress or, in its absence, state legislatures. Elected officials and voters alike should continue demanding stronger election integrity laws across the country. If you're not being careful and you just read headlines, you see the President of the United States is mad at the Supreme Court for this ruling. You see the governor of the state of Mississippi, Tate Reeves, says, I don't like this ruling, but unlike Democrats, we will accept the court's ruling and we will look at alternatives going forward, including changing the statutes in Mississippi. It's easy, though, to see a court case name, Watson versus RNC, and go, hold on a second, I thought he was a Republican. He is. Very much so. One of the more conservative elected officials we have in the state of Mississippi, and yet his job was to defend the policies of the state of Mississippi. I don't know, and I'm not even sure that it would be fair to ask Michael Watson this, but I wonder if deep down he kind of hoped that the Supreme Court would rule against him. That while, yes, it would be a loss in this particular case, it would set precedent going forward and would cause a lot of other states to have to change the way they do things. In terms of election integrity, Mississippi is one of the top states in the country. We are very efficient in the way that we run our elections, and I think most people feel very secure and very confident that it's a one-vote, one-man system, a one-man, one-vote system in Mississippi, and that their vote counts. So the Supreme Court handed down this decision yesterday 5-4 that federal law does not prohibit Mississippi from counting absentee ballots that are postmarked by Election Day but arrive up to 5 days afterward. Justice Amy Coney Barrett wrote the opinion. The court held that Congress requires voters to cast their ballots by Election Day but does not require election officials to receive every ballot by that date. In the opinion, she wrote, the federal Election Day statutes do not prevent Mississippi from counting absentee ballots postmarked by Election Day, but received up to 5 days thereafter. Nothing in the federal Election Day statutes require ballots to be received by Election Day. Here was what Tate Reeves posted on X yesterday. While I disagree with Justice Roberts and Justice Barrett joining the three liberal justices to form the 5-4 majority in today's SCOTUS ruling, we're not going to try to delegitimize the court, dox the justices, or show up at their homes, picket in the streets, or make ridiculous calls to pack the court in the future. But just because the court ruled the practice constitutional doesn't mean we should allow it in our state. Next session, I call on the Mississippi legislature to repeal the COVID-era law and require mail-in ballots to be received by the clerk by 5 p.m. on Election Day in order to be counted. Both the lieutenant governor and the Speaker of the House said that they would be looking to address the law following the ruling. Is it wrong for me to say that all sides got this right yesterday? That the federal statutes do not specify that the ballots must be received by Election Day, simply that they must be cast by Election Day, and that therefore the Supreme Court was accurate in their ruling, even though it's not the outcome that Republicans and the Mississippi RNC wanted? But the opportunity exists to fix it in the legislature. We're back with you right after this. Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk, Mississippi.
From the Venable Glass Traffic.
It's happening. You're waking up to what's happening. Mornings with Richard Cross. Right now on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
There are a lot of Republicans, a lot of conservatives that were certainly upset with the decision that was handed down from SCOTUS yesterday about mail-in ballots. Donald Trump was upset because he has continued to claim over and over that mail-in ballots are a big part of the reason that elections are rigged and they're crooked in the United States. Here's one thing, though. It's really hard to jump up and down and be super mad at Amy Coney Barrett, who wrote the opinion, or even the Chief Justice John Roberts, who is not as conservative as some would like for him to be. But can you do that and then cheerlead Amy Coney Barrett for her opinion on the presidential power decision? Because the Supreme Court also yesterday gave Donald Trump a ton of power. And while he can't fire today, specifically on the grounds that he did, the cook lady from the Federal Reserve Board, that was a very, very narrow ruling, and there are actually ways that it appears as if he may be able to fire her in a different manner. Which brings into question, what do you want from the Supreme Court of the United States of America? The highest court in the land. So, this may feel a little deep. There are people that love to say the United States of America is a democracy. That's inaccurate. We are a constitutional federal republic. In terms of principles of governance within a constitutional federal republic, you do have representative democracy, where citizens vote for officials to represent them in Congress. You have federalism, which is shared power between the federal government and state governments. And you have separation of powers. If you go back to the first government class that you took in 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade, 10th grade, or maybe you never took one, you should know that the three branches of government are the legislative, the executive, and the judicial within our federal government system in the United States. And forgive me, I'm not talking down. I'm just laying out the basic stuff and how we should look at yesterday. Separation of powers, a system of checks and balances. The executive branch is the office of the President of the United States. The legislative branch is Congress. The judicial branch is our court system. I recognize and maybe even sympathize with frustration with the court system. And here's what I mean. We have seen over and over and over the judicial system within the United States, local judges, federal judges, all the way up to the Supreme Court, be extremely partisan in their rulings in the name of thwarting the efforts of Donald Trump as President of the United States. You see that with far more regularity with left-leaning judges than you do with right-leaning judges. For whatever reason. A willingness to set aside your conscience, a willingness to set aside what the law actually says in the name of political expediency, getting what I want, keeping the other guy from getting what he wants. It's not exclusive to left-leaning judges, but it is a majority in terms of the decisions that we've seen over the last decade. And it's far more common than it used to be. By the way, it does not mean that all left-leaning politically judges are corrupt or are wrong in their interpretation of the law. That would be painting with far too wide of a brush. But we certainly have seen it, and we have seen it over and over and over. And that's what frustrates some. There are some Republicans out there, some conservatives out there that would say to you, have said to me, I'm so sick and tired of the Democrats using their power when they are in power, only to see Republicans, when they are in power, squander it and say, well, we're above that. He said, I just want to win. That's what a buddy of mine said to me, who's very, very engaged politically and has been for a very, very long time. That's a hard one, isn't it? And it would not be fair for me to say what I'm saying about the judicial system without saying the President of the United States, Donald Trump, has pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed the limits of presidential power. Now, a big part of the reason that he has done that and has had to do that is because of the inaction of a Republican majority Congress. And so Donald Trump has said, this is what I ran on. This is what a majority of Americans voted on to put me in office. And I am not going to let the legislative body, the Congress of the United States of America, with a very narrow majority of Republicans in both the House and the Senate, get in the way of the mandate that I have from the American people, or the power that I perceive that I have as President of the United States. But if we go back to the whole, what are we as a country? A constitutional federal republic, then you got to say, what do we believe in? Do we ultimately believe in the Constitution and what it says? And if the answer to that is yes, and it's not a, well, we're going to add to or take away or interpret or try to figure out what the founders meant when they wrote this 250 years ago, is the Constitution a living, breathing document, or is the Constitution, then you can't be that upset, I don't think, with the ruling that was handed down by the Supreme Court yesterday. Now, at the same time, I'm not going to try to convince you that Clarence Thomas and Alito and Kavanaugh and there's the fourth that I'm not thinking of, that are the conservative justices, Scalia, that they're wrong or they're dumb. Their interpretation of what the Constitution says and what the law says was different than the three liberal justices plus John Roberts and Amy Coney Barrett. But that's the way the Supreme Court is set up. You put 9 justices in there. The justices are appointed by presidents. They have to be approved, again, checks and balances, by the Senate. Liberal presidents are going to appoint more liberal justices. Conservative presidents are going to appoint more conservative justices. And that you hope the interpretation within what the Constitution actually says leans conservative or leans liberal, depending on kind of your political ideology. But the political ideology of Democrats is changing in the United States, at least for some. At least for some Democrats. You familiar with the newest acronym that's everywhere now? The DSA? The Democratic Socialists of America? Bernie Sanders has been there for a while. But you know what? Bernie Sanders was an old white guy. And we just kind of, kooky Bernie Sanders, just doing his thing, kind of out there on an island. And then Bernie Sanders creates an alliance with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who's not just a kooky old white guy. She's a brown-skinned New Yorker who at times speaks eloquently and at times sounds like an unhinged lunatic. And then you go into a race for mayor of the biggest city in the United States of America. And a guy by the name of Zohran Mamdani wins. And then that mayor endorses candidates that win in legislative elections in New York. And what they want to tell you is, oh, no, stop saying this is communism, this is democratic socialism. No, it's communism. Dressed up a little bit differently, but it's still communism. Find me a country in the world that has gone down the road of communism that is better off today than it was before it was communist. I'll wait. You can't find one. We're in a dangerous time in the United States.
Waking up Mississippi. From South Haven to Scuba, it's Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Got a lot of your messages coming in on the C-Spire text line. We'll get to those coming up in just a little bit. Remind you that number is 601-879-4395. Again, 601-879-4395. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi, presented by Community Bank. And we are happy to welcome in our first guest this morning. She is a name that you know well and a voice that you're going to recognize, Mandy Gunasekara, former deputy at the EPA in the first Trump administration, and she joins us this morning. Mandy, good morning to you. Thanks for some of your time.
Yeah, good morning. Great to be with you.
I'm curious, in your time working in the Trump administration, what it was like on a day-to-day basis, because we know that this president in his previous administration and this one as well, he's extremely demanding. He has high expectations for the people that work for him. He expects what appears to be 100% loyalty, and it seems like he changes his mind a lot, which I would think could make it difficult to kind of continue down the path of this is our job, this is how we're going to go about it, this is what we're trying to achieve. What was that like?
It was one of the most demanding, but one of the most rewarding experiences working for President Trump. And what it was like is the way that he works is he deputizes or really gives his full faith and trust to whoever he deems in charge of a particular issue. And as a political staffer, whether you're at the head of the agency or you're working for the head of the agency, that's actually very empowering because you know that you're going to have to make some difficult decisions one way or another that ruffle some feathers. But at the end of the day, you always knew that the president was ultimately going to have your back. So, working in the environmental realm, we had a very clear mandate to cut regulations, ensure the air was clean, the water was clean, and that we were cleaning up legacy pollution. But he didn't want the agency to be used as a bludgeon against the economy, which it had been when we first walked in the door and when this administration walked in the door. So it's a very stressful job, but it's a very rewarding job. And, the biggest thing, probably one of the things I was least prepared for were internal fights amongst fellow Trumplicans or White House personnel or administration personnel that you're on the same team, because going to solve an issue, even from a conservative perspective, there are differing perspectives on how best to pursue that course. People get very committed to those particular outcomes. And so you expend a lot of energy kind of working it out amongst yourself. But that's actually the way it's supposed to work. And, the president, he will push you to the limits, but that really produces amazing results in a very short period of time. And the biggest difference, I'll say this and then stop talking, but the biggest difference between the first administration and the second administration was him understanding how short the time is for his appointees to get his agenda in place and to start working it through a bureaucratic process that is designed to be slow, it's designed to be obstinate. And then obviously in the Trump administration, you have a ton of political headwinds that typically you don't face, whether it's, random investigations trying to undermine the credibility of people, or whether it's entire industries built up to try and keep the status quo, especially on environmental regulations and things along those lines. So people talk about drinking from a fire hose. That is the personal experience of what it's like, but it's very rewarding and very empowering, because at the end of the day, you can disagree on some of the specifics and how to get there, but you know that you are striving to achieve a clear vision laid out by the president. And you can always go in and you can talk to him. It's not necessarily going to be an easy conversation, but as long as you're focused on delivering those results that he expects, he's going to defend you even when naysayers or some of this broader baggage Trump appointees have to deal with comes out into the public light.
As you were talking, I could not help but think about two of the things that we hear about a lot in D.C. politics. You're in Washington, D.C. on a regular basis still, and that's the deep state and the uniparty. And the deep state being that there is this covert behind-the-scenes group that is actually running the government, that they're kind of the puppet masters, and if anything upsets their apple cart, then stuff starts happening, then sometimes bad stuff starts happening. And then the uniparty, and that's the idea that we elect Republicans and we elect Democrats, and then they go to Washington, D.C., and they just kind of operate as this big cabal that's going to do what they want. What was your observation of those two entities, and are they one and the same?
Yeah, absolutely. As you were saying that, they really are complementary. And I mean that in a very negative way. The deep state is, you think of that within the trenches of the administration. And these are typically career folks that are less committed to being a public service and more committed to be an activist and will do anything and everything to stop the progression and the will of the American people by virtue of the electorate and election outcomes from actually changing course. And they do that for a variety of reasons. The Uniparty is they are a complementary aspect of that. They are people that come to D.C. and for whatever reason, they benefit from the status quo. So they don't want to upset that apple cart. And that's what President Trump ran up against and wasn't 100% prepared for the first go round. And not just him, his broader team wasn't exactly prepared. And he actually invited some of the people who were a part of the Uniparty to be a part of his core team early on. And so that's, again, a big difference between the second go round. I mean, I wrote a whole book about this. It's called Y'all Fired, but it's my experience with the deep state and the Uniparty, my anecdotal experience. They will go out of their way to demean, demoralize, and diminish the ability of political appointees to come in and change the status quo. And that's because you have people benefiting, whether it's monetarily. We saw this exposed with early work, the Department of Government Efficiency, and almost the entirety of what USAID, it was a big cover for taxpayer money laundering schemes, essentially, to go towards left-wing efforts, whether it was abroad or within this country. But it was such a grift that was enriching people who were a part of this deep state cabal or this Uniparty status quo. And so the most important thing when you're sending people up to Washington, D.C. to represent your state's interests, this goes back to the original founding idea of our Constitution and the affiliated documents. You want a vociferous defender of your state's position. You want someone who is willing to be the skunk at the garden party, to ensure that your state's interests actually are accurately represented and that you're not just becoming a part of this blob. And that doesn't mean you can't compromise. It doesn't mean you can't work across party lines, but you need someone who is very much committed and has the courage to stand up when you're not going to be the popular person in the room. And that was a big change with President Trump and the people like myself who worked for him is we didn't necessarily care about being a part of a popular person within the blob and invited to all of the big events and the things that, get people committed to this status quo. We were there for a reason. It was to represent the America First vision that ruffles a lot of feathers, that gets you into a lot of heated discussions, and it doesn't make you very popular with the media. But you can't care about that. You've got to go with a purpose, and you cannot lose sight of that. Otherwise, you get sucked in.
We were talking earlier this morning about the SCOTUS ruling, particularly in Watson versus RNC. And you and I might not agree on this, but I kind of put this out there that, if you look at the SCOTUS decisions that came down yesterday as a whole, there were some that went the way of the president, and one in particular that looks like it enhances his presidential powers, but then this Mail-in Voting Act goes the other way. And I would argue that that's actually the way government is supposed to work and the way the Supreme Court is supposed to work, that reasonable people can disagree on an issue based on their interpretation of the Constitution. What is your reaction to what we saw yesterday and what we're probably going to see today as well?
Yeah, I actually agree with you, Richard. I do think that that's the way the Supreme Court is supposed to work. It can be frustrating, and you're not guaranteed the policy outcomes that you want as a conservative or a Republican. But what I think what they have made very clear in clarity, it's sometimes a gift. It's not necessarily the easiest route or what you want, but we have clarity that it is up to Congress to act to define some key points when it comes to our national elections. This issue of non-citizens voting. I know this wasn't necessarily the focus of this decision, but nonetheless, it brings in the broader issue of the Save America Act. We need to ensure that it's only American citizens voting in our elections. We need to ensure that there are clear deadlines. To me, there's nothing more demoralizing than Election Day coming, And then you have to wait for weeks and weeks. And throughout those weeks, what the projected outcome of a certain election was, it whittles away. It whittles away. I just think there's nothing more demoralizing with regards to an individual voter coming up and thinking that their vote matters and their vote counts than having to go through that process. I think it's very, very dangerous for the integrity of our voting system writ large. So I agree, the Supreme Court, at least as originalist conservative, my perspective, you're not always going to get what you ultimately want on the policy front, but what that means is the responsibility is squarely set. It's squarely been pushed over to the legislature to actually act, and it's increasingly important.
And of course, we can expect that the legislature is going to, that the Congress is going to act in a timely and an efficient manner, and they're going to get the will of the president done, because we're seeing that over and over and over. Mandy, I know you're traveling with your family. I appreciate your time this morning. We'll catch up soon.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me.
From the Venable Glass Traffic.
What's happening in Mississippi politics?
Yes.
You're in the right place. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Sweet Jane. Oh, sweet, sweet Jane. Waiting for Jimmy down in the alley.
I get way, way, way too much junk email. Lance, I don't know what your email inbox looks like, but I mean, I could open that thing at 4 p.m. and really be like, why do I have 80 new emails since I saw it this morning? And I could just go through and delete them, and I might miss one important message.
Mm-hmm.
But I was just scrolling through during the break. I was clicking delete on a few, and it's fascinating to see what's being advertised. Because you've got some companies that are advertising, hey, 4th of July sale, look your best on the 4th of July, make sure you're patriotic. But then I got consecutive from 2 different outdoors companies. 2 different camouflage making companies. They're ready to get that deer hunting.
Yeah, they're
going.
They're tapped into your dreams.
Yeah, so, beat the heat with the air pant.
The air pant.
Guy, it's, we got half the country under a heat dome with heat indices at 110, and they know that there are people that are like, man, I can't wait for deer season. Gosh, it's going to be hot when deer season. Check out our new air pants. Stay cool while you're in the woods with bow season starting in October.
Yeah, man, get them while they last, they say,
Yeah.
Stuff's going to sell out, so you got to buy it today.
Yeah. Hey, I need to say a thank you. So
you're welcome.
Yeah, I appreciate that very much. All right, we'll move on. One more specific thank you than that. So if you were with us yesterday morning, you know that we had some hiccups, some issues, and I appreciate you being patient. But there was a cable that I needed that I did not have. I failed to pack it when we left town before the weekend. Was all set to, and it just was so. I left my family yesterday shortly after the show began, and I began a trek back to Mississippi, but not all the way to Oxford, not to Jackson. I went to the coast. We've got one of our SuperTalk stations is on the coast, WOSM 103.1 FM. Thanks to those of you who are listening in coastal Mississippi. But one of our coworkers, our colleagues, our fellow employees at SuperTalk, was kind enough to bring the cable that I needed and meet me just off the interstate instead of having to go all the way into Gulfport, or I think that's where our station is there. He met me at the Cracker Barrel in Moss Point. So I just jumped off at 10, scooted down, looped around, handed the cord to Tic Tac, who went out of his way to bring that to me. You saved me about an hour and a half on the road yesterday, and I thank you so very much. Was able to get back in time for dinner last night. It was great. So thanks, Tic Tac. You not only did you make my day better yesterday, but you got to You rescued the show this morning. We didn't have to endure again today what yesterday was.
Yeah, so far it's been like a lazy river ride today. We got an hour to go. I'm feeling confident.
We got an hour to go. We're going to start things off with the Secretary of State, Michael Watson, in the 8 o'clock hour. Look forward to visiting with him. Appreciate Mandy Gunasekara, who was, I think she was in a different part of the country today, but was kind enough to join us while she was away on a bit of a family vacation. All right, what about this from Donald Trump last night? What do you even do with this? All right, so we've talked a lot, not recently, but kind of through the years, about gas prices at the pump go up way faster than they go down. And it's incredibly frustrating. Forecast of a hurricane, gas prices spike. War in the Middle East, gas prices spike overnight. And we've always been told by retailers, people that work within the petroleum industry, within the convenience store industry, you buy this stuff on contracts, and so you're paying in advance for gas, and you got to protect yourself because I get all of that. But yesterday, the president spoke the same language that many of you speak when you go, well, they go up in the blink of an eye, but it takes them forever to come down. President Trump last night. Gasoline retailers must get their prices down immediately. They're too high, considering that oil is now at $68 a barrel and heading south. The retailers must quickly react to this statement and do what they know is right. Drop your price for our great American people. There will be no gouging, which is totally illegal. If retailers don't do this, big problems lie ahead. Start targeting around the $2.50 a gallon number, and California should stop charging such a heavy tax on their gasoline. Soon the tax will be higher than the product itself, and the United States will not stand for it, nor will the people of California who are being abused by these ridiculous taxes and their own government. Will it work? I say $2.50 a gallon gives Republicans a puncher's chance in the midterms. 8 o'clock hour all the way.
Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Welcome to the show.
Eight o'clock hour mornings with Richard Cross, presented by Community Bank, online at communitybank.net. Community Bank, rooted in our community. Appreciate, especially since we just visited last week, the Secretary of State, Michael Watson, joining us this morning. He is on the road, I think, to the Mississippi Gulf Coast today. And kind to give us a few minutes of your time. I know you've gotten to do a lot of cool things in your life. Where does having your name on a Supreme Court case rank in terms of cool things in life?
It's got to be up there, Richard. Just the experience, going to the Supreme Court. And I clearly remember the very first question coming from Clarence Thomas, a hero of the conservative side of things. And man, just such the history that was there is incredible, but pretty cool thing.
I am curious about this ruling. There was a quote that was attributed to you yesterday, and I'm paraphrasing. I'm not reading it directly right this second, but basically, you didn't love the decision itself, but your job is to uphold the law for the state of Mississippi, and the ball is in the legislature's court going forward. If they so choose to change the law. Is that a reasonable summation of where you stand?
That's pretty good, Richard. In the case, obviously in the argument there at the Supreme Court, I felt like we lost. And, a lot of folks would say that the loss would have really put in a policy position that you have to have it in by Election Day. And I think the argument there comes down to what the court did, what is the definition of Election Day, I'm still a little bit confused after reading the opinion, but I understand what they're saying. And, when that passed the definition, it did come down to federalism. And because the federal law and the Constitution allows those decisions to be made at the state level, I think we've got to cheer on federalism. That's a great bedrock principle for our country. Madison, Jefferson, those guys really thought that was incredibly important. So that's the winning side of it. Again, the policy piece, I don't like states that have, like California and others, where up to 21 days, your ballot can come back in. I don't think that's good for election integrity. That said, that's a decision that Congress and or state legislators have to make when Congress does not speak to it.
This strikes me as an interesting position for you to be in. Secretary of State is a nonpartisan elected position. I mean, I guess you run as either a Republican or a Democrat, but it's supposed to be a nonpartisan elected position. You are currently running for lieutenant governor as a Republican in Mississippi, and yet there's this lawsuit that is Watson versus the Republican Party of Mississippi. I would have to think that puts you in a little bit of a strange position. Are you concerned at all about people seeing this and going, well, he's not standing up for, what Republicans want or what conservatives want, versus kind of really paying attention to what the lawsuit was about and what it was that you stood up for as Secretary of State?
Yeah, in politics, Richard, bumper stickers is what people talk about. What's on the bumper sticker. If you've got to explain yourself, then that's a tough position to be in. For us, it wasn't a fun case to take. And quite frankly, a lot of folks said, no, we're not doing that. But I felt like it was the right thing to do. It was a question that was really important to the country, in my opinion. And I felt like Mississippi needed to do the right thing. And come what may, I've tried to always position myself to make decisions based on what I thought was right, Richard. And if politically that sends me home, then so be it. I'm not here to make a name for myself. I'm here to do what I think is right for the people of Mississippi. And so at the end of the day, I think that's what happened. Again, is there going to be some consequences, or will there be consequences because somebody says, well, gosh, he went up against the RNC? Perhaps. And if that happens, then so be it. But I'm comfortable with what we did.
Were you surprised by how this ruling ultimately came down in a 5-4 decision with Amy Coney Barrett writing the opinion and Chief Justice John Roberts being on that side with the three more liberal-leaning justices?
Extremely surprised, Richard. We were all prepared to. Yeah, we were all prepared. Well, I say extremely surprised. Going back to the argument in the court, I thought that their attorneys, outperformed ours to touch. I thought that the questions that were asked and the way that they were answered, it just seemed to me like the writing was on the wall what the decision would be. Now, when it comes down to the mechanics and the policy piece and, how you look at the definition, et cetera, I do feel like there was, this thing, it could go either way. And I think that's when you see a 5-4 split like that. That's what happens. But that said, I was a bit surprised. And again, the reason why I thought we may lose was really more policy implications and what was good for the country.
Right.
But when you take that apart, again, going back to the idea of federalism, and if it's not spoken to, and that's how Amy Coney Barrett kind of got around that definition piece of what does election day mean. Once you get past that, it does get to the idea of federalism, and I thought she was well-grounded in arguing the federalism piece.
It seems likely that the Mississippi legislature will take this issue up within their body in the upcoming session. The governor has encouraged them to do so, and I think both the lieutenant governor and the speaker have indicated a willingness to examine that issue. My guess is that Mississippi makes some sort of a change to election law going forward. My guess is also that California does not, and Illinois does not, and others do not. I know that you've mentioned federalism a number of times, and you've talked to me in the past about the importance of states' rights within kind of our governmental framework. What about this patchwork quilt, though, that we have across our 50 states of, well, the election laws in Texas are this, and in Mississippi they're this, and Kentucky and Virginia? would we be better suited with universal election laws?
We would be better suited in the case of this. And look, if you go back and take the opinion apart, kind of read through it, how states used to have different election days for Senate and House. And folks were concerned that, they'd elect somebody in one state and then they'd run across to another state and vote again, which is when Congress stepped in and said, all right, we're going to have an election a day across the board.
Yeah.
And I think that's the piece where Congress needs to come back in and make sure that definition is pretty clear. What does election day mean? To me, Richard, I think it's not just casting the vote. Also, I think it's the reception of the vote as well. You can cast the vote all you want, but if it's not received, it doesn't count. So that's where I was a little bit confused in how Amy Coney Barrett got to where she got. But again, she got there, and God bless her. Whatever she decided was right for her, that's fine. That said, again, I do think the legislature is going to have to act. And let's be very clear, this is a policy position that I didn't like when it was passed back in 20. And
right.
We've talked to the legislature about repealing it. It just never was repealed. And I know there was some legislation that was moving to repeal it. That got sidetracked a bit. And I do think that the legislature will do the right thing and take that out of the law. It was put in for COVID. Again, I didn't like it then, don't like it now, but I do think the legislature will take it out.
Michael Watson is our guest, Secretary of State. We're talking about the Watson versus RNC decision yesterday from the Supreme Court. This conversation earlier this morning kind of took us down the road of the way our federal government is set up with 3 branches and checks and balances and all of those things. Given that you had multiple Supreme Court decisions that were handed down yesterday, some that were very favorable to Donald Trump, some that he was very much against, was yesterday an illustration that our system actually works as exactly as it is supposed to?
Yeah, I think so. And, I appreciate the idea. I think the governor actually said it yesterday. We're not going to get out there and flog the Supreme Court members because they made a decision that we may not have liked on the policy implications of it. That's how the system is built, and that's how it works. On the flip side, far too often we see folks who don't want to accept the Supreme Court, and they decide they want to pack it and make it only respond to their wishes, and that's not a good thing. So, yeah, I think we've got to celebrate that. Yesterday, Richard, that was a big deal for our country, and that the system worked. Again, not every decision that comes down is going to be one that we love, but
yeah.
That's how it was built to work, and so I appreciate the service that those men and women give to our country, even though sometimes I disagree with them. I do appreciate that.
Michael Watson visiting with us in his role as Secretary of State this morning. He was at the Neshoba County Fair last week in that role, but also in the role of running for Lieutenant Governor with a couple of days to reflect on the fair. Anything stand out for you?
Again, just the beauty of Mississippi. When you go to the Neshoba County Fair and you see the fellowship, the family atmosphere, the friends getting back together that hadn't seen each other in a while, catching up with what's going on in life. At the end of the day, Richard, if you're from North Mississippi, South Mississippi, East or West, we all want what's best for our communities and our families. And so being at an event like the Neshoba County Fair, where that is the highlight of the fair, that coming back together and those reunions, for lack of a better term, that happen with friends and family, it's just the beauty of our state. We care about each other. We want what's best for each other. And so I'm really excited about not only serving as Secretary of State, but the future of our state moving forward as Lieutenant Governor.
Well, all the best in making sure that your campaign signs are the highest on the poll. Thank you so much for your time this morning.
You got it, my friend.
Secretary of State Michael Watson joining us. It's Mornings of Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi, presented by Community Bank. We're back with you right after this.
From the Venable Glass.
Now, what's happening across your state? Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Working from one end to the other, and all points in between.
A beautiful morning across the Magnolia State. Hot morning. Humid morning, but beautiful blue skies and sunshine, and that looks like it's going to be the case for most of the rest of the week. Have a few chances of some pop-up thunderstorms and some showers that could develop along the way, so keep a heads up on that. Alongside Lance Tolbert, I'm Richard Cross. This is Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi, presented by Community Bank. When it comes to money, trust isn't automatic. It is earned. That's why Community Bank does things the old-fashioned way. When you come to us, we take the time to listen to you and discuss any questions you have. Whether you're saving, spending, or planning ahead, you'll find bankers who know the community because they are part of it. Community Bank, banking designed with you in mind. Visit in person or online at communitybank.net. That's communitybank.net. Appreciate you making us part of your morning routine. If you are on the road, maybe you're headed to a family reunion. Some people still do those from time to time. Maybe you are headed to the beach. Maybe you're headed to the mountains. Maybe you are headed to the lake or the hunting camp. Be safe on the road out there. Be careful traveling, and we wish you absolutely nothing but the best on, I'm calling it Independence Day week. It's a weird deal when a major holiday falls on a Saturday, Lance.
Yeah, I'm not minding.
You're like, okay,
I get Garden Mama and Handyman. They decided to give me a day off a couple weeks ago. They're like, we're going to take the July 4th, and you've got to take a day off. I'm like, all right. I was going to be here.
So you're not going to have to work on Friday the 3rd or Saturday the 4th or Sunday the 5th?
Living right. Well, I'll have some programming stuff to get in for Sunday, but, yeah, I mean, it won't be, a full day or anything.
Straight to deer camp for you when you get off work on Thursday?
Probably trying to. Yeah, that's what we're trying to arrange. So,
okay.
Yeah, I'm a little tentative, though. Hadn't been in a few months. I know that I'll have a lot of work to get done to start with, but once it's done, it'll be feet kick up and enjoy, probably grill up something and maybe get a little fishing in if it's not too hot.
It's going to be hot.
Ooh, yeah. I know.
So let me ask you this. Knowing that there is a great big pile of work when you arrive, is there an alternate potential plan of just, hey, instead of going there and having to work for a day and a half before I can prop my feet up, let me just go somewhere where I can flat prop my feet up?
Yeah, I need to get up there and do it. It's once I get that out of the way, it'll be much easier to, you get that big gorilla hanging on your back. Once you get him thrown off, everything feels fine. Yeah, and I need to get up there and have fun. My dogs need to go. They want to run. Hawk's been fired up. He needs some good stretching out, and got to go catch up with all the folks.
So what, you got to weed eat, and you got to mow, and you got to bush hog?
Little weed eating probably, and then last time I was there, I had a mass infestation of red wasps that had gotten up into the attic, I guess, and I started cooking out on the front porch, had the lights off. It was beautiful, nice full moon out there and a fire down in the fire pit, and I'm sitting up on the balcony, the front porch, ready to throw some steaks and some boudin on, and got my coals lit and everything's going good, and the smoke's going up into the ceiling, and all of a sudden I start feeling stuff all over me. I'm like, I don't know what, I thought they were mosquitoes, No, it was an absolute infestation of red wasps.
How many of them got you?
Oh, I mean, I don't know how many got me. It was enough. The dogs are getting popped pretty good, and then they got into the actual cabin, and so it was a mess. I kind of had to grab my stuff and haul butt.
So you're going to go armed with?
Yes, I didn't have near enough. I had 3
spray.
cans, and I was dropping them too, but I ran out, and I was like, man, there's thousands more. So yeah, I'm going to have to go armed and with a good idea of it's probably not going to be perfect, and as long as you know that going in, it's when you go and you think everything's going to be perfect, and then it's like the wheels pop off the bus,
Wasps created me a caveman mentality.
Oh man.
I had one. It was the first time I'd been stung in a while, but I had one that got me in the side of the leg last week. And, I mean, I didn't see him, didn't hear him. I mean, it was like he came in like a kamikaze and just drilled the side of my thigh. And, I mean, it was one that hurt.
Yeah, he was looking for you, man.
And it held on for a few days with that, the inflammation and whatever else. But, man, I get that can of wasp spray and knock them down, and the joy that I feel in watching wasps or yellow jackets die, sometimes finding a stick and trying to figure out if they're still kind of hanging on a little bit, if I can inflict a little torture in them before they – it's not a a good place for my mind to go. But I don't know, man. It happens when the stingers are out.
Yeah, and the Yellow Jackets are rough too, because underneath the cabin, all of them are up off the ground, raised up on stilts because it floods in there. And the Yellow Jackets, they get pretty bad. I have a couple of splits in the concrete underneath that over years, they've burrowed down in. And I know exactly where they are, and they love really harassing you when you kind of walk up on them and don't expect them. So come in prepared, well heeled.
There you go.
I'm going to have them coming at me from all directions. But yeah, it'll be fun, man. It's time to go, and I hope I catch a few fish too. That's the other thing.
Attaboy.
Yeah, man. Give me some. Get a couple slabs ready to go.
We're gonna try and catch a few fish on Friday before we come home.
What is the fishing like there? If you were wanting to just do something from the shore, I've gone deep sea fishing a lot, but I've never shore fished at the beach. Have you ever done that?
I'll have to. My son does. He loves it. He loves it. He caught a little a needle nose fish last year. It was pretty cool. Mm-hmm. I don't feel like you catch a lot from the beach. Maybe some people are just better at it than I am or we are. But he's gonna give it a go, and I'll report back.
Do you still see a lot of folks floundering, out there in the night or late afternoons and in the evening? When I was a kid, that was always very popular. Yeah, you'd see tons of people out there, and I love flounder. I mean, that's goodness gracious, how good a eating is that? I don't think it beats redfish or red snapper or grouper, but flounder, oh man, it's like a big white perch,
Yeah. Thomas wants to know if you have enough time to grow the obligatory mullet for your airboat.
Well, I do. I had, before I was on air with Paul, I had what you call a mullet hawk. So, I had the mohawk with the mullet in the back. So, yeah, I had to be a little more presentable with a 6-inch beard and a mullet hawk. So, yeah, I'm going to definitely have that.
Yeah. George in Greenwood says a hornet stung my hand on Friday, then Saturday, wasp or bees got my head and my neck twice.
Oh, man, that's miserable.
Hang in there, George.
Yeah, better have some Copenhagen handy.
George also said, that's old school.
I'm from the
old
times.
School treatment method there.
Man, that's what that mammal, that was my first time to ever have the tobacco put on it, and it was not like chawing tobacco. It was Levi Garrett snuff. Mm. Yeah, and she was like, "Come here, boy." She put water on it and jammed it down on that thing. Said, "Hold that there," and it looked like cocoa powder. But yeah, she chawed on her tobacco and learned the good old tricks back in the day.
George also says that Eric Erickson last night on the Eric Erickson show implored listeners to read the majority opinion from the Supreme Court. He said he could not disagree with Justice Barrett that her reasoning was impeccable. Yet both Eric and I despise Mississippi's law that permits 5 days beyond Election Day for ballots to arrive by mail. We solidly agree with Justice Barrett that it is up to the state legislature to repeal or end the foolish law. And I think that's what you heard from the Secretary of State, Michael Watson, just a few minutes ago as well. His point, and I'm paraphrasing here, this is not a direct quote, but he does not like the law that allows Mississippi to receive mail-in absentee ballots for up to 5 days after Election Day, as long as they are postmarked on or before Election Day. He does not like that law, but he believes that the law is, as it is written, suggests that actually is legal. And that was the grounds for this. And you had a federal judge in Mississippi that said, I guess agreed with the Secretary of State's office. And then the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals overturned that ruling and agreed with the RNC. And then ultimately the Supreme Court overturned the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals ruling and said, no, the Secretary of State's office is right based on the way the law is written. These ballots are valid. And it has far-reaching impacts because Mississippi, while 5 days is, a relatively long time, it's not anything like the 21 days that are allowed in California. Not anything at all like that. And so in the majority opinion yesterday, Justice Coney Barrett, writing the opinion, wrote that it is incumbent upon the Congress, or in the absence of the Congress, state legislatures, to change the laws themselves. I think we will see that in the Mississippi legislature, but as I pointed out with the Secretary of State a little while ago, I don't think we're going to see that in Illinois or New York or California, or about half of the states that allow ballots to arrive after Election Day, as long as they're postmarked by Election Day. More of your messages on the C Spire text line, more of what we expect to see from the Supreme Court today, and a couple of other stories for you in the last half hour. Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi, presented by Community Bank.
From the White House to your hometown, this is where you find out what's happening. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
So, what else did the Supreme Court do yesterday, and what are we expecting from them today? We talked a lot about Watson versus RNC this morning, and that was a fairly significant loss for the president yesterday. But he had a pretty significant win as well. In a 6-3 decision, the court is allowing the president to fire Federal Trade Commission member Rebecca Slaughter, and that marks a major expansion of the president's firing power. The Hill writes it accomplishes legal conservatives' long-sought goal by casting aside 91 years of precedent that has provided certain agencies with a degree of independence from the White House. Trump himself called it the greatest increase in presidential power in a century. The conservative majority cast the decision as returning the presidency to its proper form. Chief Justice John Roberts said that Trump's expansive firing power is by design. Quote, "When power is exercised well, the people know whom to thank. When power is exercised poorly, they know whom to blame and whom to fire. That is the very premise of our system of government." So the decision allows the president to fire officials at a broad swath of agencies beyond just the Federal Trade Commission. More than a dozen others across the executive branch have enjoyed similar protections in years gone by that regulate nuclear energy and plane accidents and product recalls and credit unions and a whole lot more. Now, the 3 liberal dissenting judges insisted that this gives Trump a power unknown even to the English crown. They said today the court discards that democratic regime in favor of one that distorts the structure of government to fit the majority's theory of unitary, total executive control. The result is a president who emerges with far greater power than ever before. The dissent authored by Sonia Sotomayor. I'm curious if this is a double-edged sword. If you are a member of the party that is in power, that holds the presidency, then you probably like this decision. And Tate Reeves is the most recent to very publicly say this. If you have been listening to Mornings with Richard Cross for the nearly 2 years that I've been sitting in this chair, you have heard me say more times than you can count, elections have consequences. Elections have consequences. Who you put in power matters. And in this particular ruling from the Supreme Court, should a Democrat become president in a little over 2 years, then that Democrat president will have the power to go in and in one fell swoop, should he or she want to, fire all of the appointees of agency heads that fall under the executive branch and don't fall under the executive branch that Donald Trump has put in place. That is the risk that you run in a decision like this. And by the way, all of this kind of underscores the importance of the legislation that is hanging out there in the House and the Senate, the SAVE Act. And what we're talking about is the ability for only American citizens to vote in our elections. And, oh, by the way, you have to prove that you are an American citizen. We got some feedback on the show when we were talking about the SAVE Act, and Senator Wicker was on with us months ago saying, hey, it's disingenuous what you're saying. It's not as easy to prove you're an American citizen, especially for women who maybe get married and have a name change and don't have a passport. Well, I'm sorry. If it's not easy, we need to make the path to voting for those who are legally able to do so as easy as possible. But you have to have identification that matches your name to open bank accounts, to get loans, to get a passport. It just says you have to prove who you are. And I don't think that's too high of a hill to climb, and that's not Jim Crow laws, and that's not disenfranchising anyone. That is simply saying that the most sacred part of our constitutional democratic republic is voting. And voting is here for people who are legal citizens of the United States of America. There should not be anything complicated or confusing or controversial about that, unless you want the ability to cheat, and that makes it more difficult for you to cheat in elections. And you have never heard me, never have you heard me jump up and down and bang the table the way the president does about every election being stolen. If you win, congratulations, you won, and the American people have spoken. And if you lose, well, they cheated. You've never heard me say that, and you're not going to hear me say that. At least in part because we live in a state where our officials take election security very, very seriously. And there are a lot of safeguards that have been put in place to make sure that people who are supposed to be voting are able to vote, and those who are not supposed to be voting, who are not legally voting, are not allowed to vote, or their vote doesn't count. There's nothing controversial about that unless you want the ability to cheat. Period. Like, I don't even understand the complications that some people try to throw into that conversation. But we have some members of the House who are vociferously advocating for passage of the SAVE Act. And we have a Senate that is locked in, not going to do it, including Republican senators who are not going to do it. And I've yet to hear a good reason why. And the thing that the House is now threatening or talking about doing right now, and I hate this. I absolutely hate that this is the way that they are trying to go about doing this, or feel like they have to go about doing it. They are trying to, through a somewhat obscure rule within the legislature, within Congress, to add the Save America Act as an addendum or a write-on to the National Defense Spending Act. Was it the NDDA or the NDAA? Or whatever the acronym is. Which to me reeks of just another political game. Right? Well, we can't get this done the way you're normally supposed to do it. We can't get 417 members of the House and 100 members of the Senate to agree that we should have safe and fair elections, and everybody that votes in our election should legally be able to vote. So what are we going to do? Well, we're just going to go with this procedural deal where we attach the SAVE Act to the Defense Authorization Spending Bill. No. We should vote on spending for national defense as a standalone bill, and we should vote on voting and the way we go about that as a standalone bill. And then you should have to go back to your constituents in your state, whether that state is Connecticut, where Chris Murphy represents them, or California, or Rhode Island, or Nebraska, or Mississippi, or anywhere in between, and you should have to say to your constituents, on this issue, this is how I voted. I am representing you as a Mississippian, and this is how I voted. And if Mississippians agree with how you voted, then they can vote for you to stay in office, to continue to represent them. And if they don't like it, then send your butt home. What do we have coming from the Supreme Court today? We have birthright citizenship. We have transgender issues. I think the Supreme Court is going to uphold that boys can't play in girls' sports, or they're going to rule that boys can't play in girls' sports. Immigration policy hangs in the balance, though, on birthright citizenship. The Supreme Court set to decide whether Trump's restrictions on birthright citizenship can stand or if they are unconstitutional. This is a test of the 14th Amendment, which guarantees citizenship to all persons born on U.S. soil and subject to the jurisdiction thereof. The question that ultimately is before the court is if somebody is in the United States illegally and gives birth to a child on U.S. soil, is that child a United States citizen? Ultimately, that's the question. We'll be back with you to wrap things up on this Tuesday morning, June 30th edition of Mornings with Richard Cross, right after this.
Send lawyers, guns, and money. Dad, get me out of this. Ha!
From the Venable Glass.
A right. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
You know, one of the great examples in our lifetime of stock market growth and compound interest lies in the fortune that exists for Warren Buffett through Berkshire Hathaway. He has stepped down as chairman of that country and has passed the torch, and yet the gains for Berkshire continue their steady and modest growth year after year after year after year. So in terms of that being one of the great examples of stock market growth and compound interest, since 2005, between 2006 and 2025, Warren Buffett has given away roughly $48 billion to the Gates Foundation, formerly the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And his annual gift tends to be midsummer, end of June, beginning of July, usually in the form of Berkshire Hathaway stock, of which he has lots. And it is usually valued in the billions of dollars. But that is not happening on this last day of June or tomorrow, the first day of July. Warren Buffett has said that he is putting on hold or skipping his mid-year donation to the Gates Foundation so the famed investor, Warren Buffett, can wait and see the findings of a review into the foundation's ties to Jeffrey Epstein. Buffett is 95 years old. He is delaying his decision until later in the year, possibly when he puts out his Thanksgiving annual letter. He typically has donated, as I said, billions worth of Berkshire shares each June or July as part of his lifetime giving pledge that he made with Bill Gates back when they had closer ties. Now, Warren Buffett was on the board of directors at the Gates Foundation, but has stepped down from that role. Melinda Gates stepped down from her role there, and Bill Gates has been pushed out of his role, I guess, as executive director. And the Gates Foundation is going through a full investigation on what exactly Bill Gates' role was with Epstein and all of that. Buffett's still going to give money to his family foundations. His 3 children run foundations, and there's one named after his late wife, Susan Thompson Buffett. Still giving money there and plans to give it all away. I don't know how you give it all away at this point, Lance, unless you just do it all in one fell swoop at the end.
Well, you just give it to Bill Gates. He'll just buy a bunch of ticks with it, and we're good to go, man. I think ticks, the price of those has probably gone up. The demand, supply and demand marketplace.
Is the I Want to Check You for Ticks song the worst country song that has ever been written? We have the great David Allan Coe, who, says my good friend Steve Goodman wrote me and said he had written the perfect country and western song, and I wrote him back and told him he hadn't because he hadn't said anything about mama or prison or trains or getting drunk. And he wrote another verse, and I felt obliged to put it on this album. So if that is indeed the perfect country and western song, is I Want to Check You for Ticks the worst country and western song of all time?
And Brad Paisley special, right?
Not your best word, Brad. Not your best word. Although, joke's on me, I guess. I'm sure you got some mailbox money coming from that one.
From Bill Gates, yeah.
Hey, this feels like a negative to leave you on. Just made this note. I'm not sure that any president in American history has sown more racial discord than former President Barack Obama. Days before America celebrates its 250th birthday, the former president sat down for an interview and wanted to call George Washington into question. The guy that kind of helped build this country from scratch. He said this: I think sometimes we get confused in thinking that these two stories are separate. They're intertwined, right? Which is why it's possible for me to be a great admirer of George Washington and also acknowledge he was a slave holder. Because 250 years ago, our country was exactly the same as it is today, right? What was accepted, what was part of social norms.
Yeah, Thomas Sowell, it's his birthday today, right? A good one to go review if you're questioning what was actually going on back then.
Yeah.
He's a brilliant man.
Started watching this morning. I thought I heard birds chirping in the background. What a lovely porch, Richard. Yeah, I'm away from home, but I didn't realize it. Somebody mentioned that earlier. I had not heard a bird chirping in the back. Now, it's no Robert Johnson smoke detector.
Yeah, that's what I told somebody. It's his smoke detector, man.
Yeah. I guess we had not been talking enough about Barack Obama in recent weeks or recent months outside the hideousness of his new library in Chicago, and so needed to get himself back in the news.
Good for him.
Yeah.
Missing the power.
George and Greenwood, Richard, amen. Congress should stick to fair, proper procedure. Thanks for being with us on this Tuesday morning, the final day of the month of June. We're back with you just after 6 a.m. tomorrow on the first day of July. For Lance Tolbert, I'm Richard Cross. Mornings with Richard Cross, presented by Community Bank. Hope you have a wonderful Tuesday.
SuperTalk Mississippi Media Production.